Hello, this is IFAI Talking Textiles, and this episode is brought to you by the Advanced Textiles Products Division of IFAI. The goal of this podcast is to get to know the wide variety of positions and markets that make the advanced textiles world turn. We will be talking to professionals in different roles throughout the series to help inspire the next generation of textile professionals and anyone interested in learning about others' journeys in the world of textiles. IFAI offers advanced textiles content throughout the year, including the upcoming Smart Fabric Summit, an event where government, industry, and academia meet for this year's theme, which is Disruption, Innovation, and Getting Back to the Future. It's happening March 28th and 29th this year at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can visit www.smartfabricssummit.com to learn more. On today's episode, we'll be speaking with King Mukherjee, founder and director of Global Impex Group. We'll learn about his path into the industry and his achievements. And now, let's talk textiles. Welcome, everyone, to IFAI Talking Textiles. I'm Paige Mullis, chair of the Advanced Textiles Products Advisory Board and brand director for Glen Raven. I'm your host for today's Advanced Textile Products discussion, and thanks to everyone for listening on today's episode. Excited to be able to share with you all that we're going to be interviewing King Mukherjee. King's role is the founder and director of Global Impex Group in USA. Global Impex is a mill direct company providing custom fabric to meet all your textile needs. Additionally, King is an associate professor of global business leadership through St. John's University. Well, this is exciting. Welcome, King Mukherjee, to the Advanced Textile Products podcast. We're lucky to have you on today and appreciate you being here. And I do want to dig into some questions that might be interesting to some of our listeners out there. But before I do that, I just kind of want to set us up for what the agenda is going to be today on our podcast. So for those of you that are listening, we have some experts in the field of advanced textiles that this series covers, and excited to be able to chat with King today. And we'll go throughout the process or go throughout our question today and learn a little bit more about his career path, maybe what he studied in school, a little bit about what his role is now and how that has evolved over his career path. And we'll talk a little bit about internships as well. So I think this might be a good time just to kind of jump in, King, and maybe first start off with your profession and your title as you are today, and then we'll kind of back up from that a little bit also.
Thank you, Paige, for doing this podcast and this interview series, and thanks to IFAI for helping us with this podcast series. So my background a little bit, I was born in Mother Teresa City in Calcutta, India, where I went to a Catholic school. Then from there, I moved to England. I studied, I went to grad school to do international business. That's my study. Then I taught a couple of years in a British University before I moved to LA and accidentally stepped into the world of textiles in 2000 when I first moved to LA and started as a very young intern, giving up teaching at the time. From there, I moved to South Carolina when two of the textile company merged. That's where I got a good training of textile world because Northern South Carolina are hub of textiles. In 2007-8, I moved to Minnesota. I started teaching again, and I became a tenure-track professor in College of St. Benedict, St. John's University in central Minnesota, which is a private liberal art Catholic Benedictine school. I mainly have been teaching supply chain and also have been overseeing internship in the Department of Global Business Leadership, which is formerly known as Management Department. Beside that, I have been actively involved with IFAI. I remember my first show as an intern in 2001 in Orlando, Also, I have been involved with NAMTA, National Art Trade Material Association, which is where we dealt with a lot of the textiles. And in recent years, I have been a part of Academy of International Business and Association of International Business Research and Practice. So I'm basically a practicing manager professional, and my area of specialization is supply chain strategy and internship. That's what I've been teaching.
That is quite the resume that you have there, King. I mean, gosh, I feel like we could spend the whole time talking about your career path. And we are going to touch on that a little bit. But I noticed that you said that you turned to textiles in graduate school. And so I'm curious what you studied in undergraduate school, and maybe what intrigued you to start going down that career path.
That's a good question. I studied accounting and finance in my undergrad, which was okay, but I really didn't enjoy. It's at the graduate programs when I started studying international business, dealing internationally, that really opened the whole world for me.
And that's interesting because I think a lot of listeners are going to be students, and I think you're a testament of, thinking that you might want to go down one path, and then you went down the accounting and finance path, got your undergraduate degree in that, then your path shifted. And I think that can happen to many of us. I think early on in my studies and career, I actually was thinking that I wanted to be in accounting as well. And then that was in high school. And then when I got to college, I said, no way, this is not for me. So just for the listeners out there, it does make perfect sense that your path can navigate over time. So I appreciate you sharing that. What was the hook for you on the textile side once you got there and you were like, this is me, I want to dig down into this career path further? What was it for you that was the draw?
It was actually while grading paper for one of the students in the British University, and she did a paper on textile industry, and their parents knew somebody who owned a textile mill. And that's how I started talking to them. I mean, it was through personal networking. I started exploring the mills, the textiles, the world of canvas. That's how I stepped in. And I was young. They said, hey, we have a position open. Do you want to work in sales and marketing in LA? And I didn't think second, LA sounded great at 22. I just zoomed from England to LA then.
Well, I'm glad that you landed there because I think folks can learn a lot from you for sure. So maybe let's talk about some of the students that you have today. And I'm kind of skipping off of our script here because we have a lot of things to cover, and I feel like this could be interesting. So the students that you have today, are those mainly business students? Do you have textile students, or kind of what is the mix that you have of those?
Yes, these students mainly work with us in Global Impacts, the company which I founded in 2017. I founded a couple of textile companies before that. We have close to 15, 20 students from 15 different schools across the country, encompassing big universities like University of Minnesota, Madison, to smaller liberal arts school. They are from variety. They are business major, communication major, some are engineering background. One or two are from the Wilson College of Textiles, but mostly they are business or business related students, and they're undergrad students. Then we have a couple of students who are based one in Mumbai, one in Belgium. They're doing master's program, graduate program, and they're experiencing this world of textiles, working, collaborating, and discovering in the process.
I'm going to go back to a comment that you mentioned a moment ago, that your specialty, you said, is supply chain. Is that correct? Okay. So today, I'm sure you're getting all kinds of conversations about supply chain. Maybe you could talk about a little bit of what a day in the life of somebody that works in supply chain. Now, I know COVID times are different than maybe non-COVID times. So let's maybe just think positively for a moment and think about like what a normal non-COVID supply chain day looks like and what that might involve, and maybe just share some of those details.
Sure. I'll be happy to do that. Of course, I bounce between industry and teaching. So, for example, a typical day when you start your day early around 7 a.m., you basically contact, because in our business we import some of the raw materials and then we finish it down here down south. So in the morning, or even before you go to sleep, the night before, you check with your vendors about your shipment, where they are, what is the status, what is the reports. Early in the morning, you follow up with the team of operations and supply chain who are doing the shipping, answer the typical emails where the shipments are when they're shipping out from the warehouse and distribution center here domestically. Mostly it comes out of South Carolina. And then after that, basically, whatever emails are there, I try to quickly respond to them. If I'm not teaching on a particular day, then of course, we have series of meetings with various teams, but tracking the shipments, talking to the industry people or our friends whom, like this morning, I had a chat of containers reaching to LA is taking more than 100 days from India to LA, and the repercussion effect of it and how we are coping, how we are dealing because of the supply chain crisis, coupled with freight crisis, the container crisis, coupled with commodity increasing price increase. We are constantly talking, what's the price today, what's the price will be tomorrow, where we are headed. So that's what we talk with our friends in the industry as a whole, where we are headed towards and how we'll be handling, what we can expect in coming 2-3 months. So after that discussions, basically making sure the team sends the packing list to the customer, the shipments are tracked when they're shipped from warehouse, talking to the invoicing people, the bookkeepers, to make sure the customer gets the invoice when the goods reaches there. So basically, when you're looking at a supply chain, for me, my day-to-day activities is to deal with the full circle, from the sourcing to the finishing to the logistics to the shipment to the invoicing to the follow-up services, and constantly seeing what we have in stocks, what we don't have. And also, because of COVID times, developing more vendors than usual is very important, because you cannot put all the eggs in one basket, which we have learned it. Also, giving the information beforehand to the customer so that they don't get a surprise of a price increase and freight increase. So those are some of the challenges. So I tell to the students that when we are doing supply chain, or even I teach corporate strategy, or when I'm in my internship classes teaching, it's not just one thing. Supply chain is related to marketing, it is related to business strategy, it is related to financing, all the areas. So we touch in all areas when we are doing practical businesses, very different from a classroom setting where we do one class at one time at one schedule.
And that makes sense. And actually, that's a great lead in to my next question. So I don't come from supply chain. My background is not supply chain, but do students need to get a degree in supply chain management before coming into that field? Or you talked about the different areas of the supply chain. Is it necessary to have that degree in supply chain management? What are organizations that are looking to hire in this area? What kinds of education are they looking for or experience?
From my personal experience and also the interns and the students we deal across the board, not everybody doing supply chain has a supply chain undergrad or a grad degree. People who likes numbers, who has an analytical brain, because attention to detail is very important in supply chain. Proactiveness is very important in supply chain instead of reactiveness. So I will say a combination of attitude and aptitude can make you a good supply chain professional. It's good to have some kind of training, but it's not necessarily these days. So you can come from finance. I have people in the University of Minnesota who started off in journalism as mass communication intern. Later on, they move to a finance and supply, because there is a lot of crossover between finance and supply chain, as I see more and more.
Okay. Well, that's helpful to know, because as we discussed earlier, people may go down one path for their degree and then decide that's
Yeah.
not really a right fit for me. And so it's great for young professionals or students entering the workplace to understand that they don't have to have their life mapped out perfectly, that things can change, and we just have to be open to change. So that's great for sharing. I'm guessing, particularly right now, supply chain is not all unicorns and rainbows and roses, but you do have to take the bad with the good. So I want you to talk about your, like, one of your worst experiences in supply chain and how you navigated that. And then we're going to flip to the positive side and hear about all the bright spots of supply chain. So maybe let's talk about an experience that you can share that was a, you know, unfortunate one, and then maybe how you navigated that.
Yeah, surely. And I can share two of it. One which I personally experienced a couple of months back, and one which I have been talking to one of my former colleague, who is one of the top salespeople in our industry, in the textile world. That even after 30 years of experience, it can be challenging. The one which I'm going to share is very typical. This is some kind of army duck finishing, Sunforger finish, as Paige, you might be knowing. For the tent, we need California Fire Standard finishing. So when we got the raw material, the gray goods as we call it, and was finishing at MFH, and finally when it went to a customer, I received a complaint from the customer that, hey, your piece length has been too small for making a fabric of tent from a fabric. I need minimum piece length of 50 yards. But here, the vendor has supplied 30 yards, 50 yards. It's $2 for a fabric, $5, $6 to finish. I'm paying $8. And if I have these issues, then that's a problem. So that is something which we missed to notice the packing list when it was shipped from overseas, the raw materials, which in turn created a lot of ripple effect. Finally, we went to the customer, we sat down, we talked about it, we are transparent, truthful, and we solved it. We figured out that the finishing house also, because of shortage of labor these days, coupled of supply chain, they mixed up the B grade goods, which was smaller piece length and some defects, with the A grade goods, which was 90% of the goods. So we resolved it amicably. On other hand, for a couple of days, my friend I've been hearing, they have been supplying some goods which goes for finishing, a bleach white. And now in textile industry, we have various kind of yarn, as Paige, you know. Now this customer has been ordering from my friend and my former colleague for years. All of a sudden he said, hey, the goods you're supplying, are they open-ended yarn or ring spun yarn? He said, I've always been supplying you open-ended yarn. And now there is a problem. He assumed that it is all this time was ring spun yarn, which is more expensive, more cleaner, higher strength. But nowhere in his purchase order he ever mentioned that supply me with ring spun yarn. So in our industry, the normal procedure is mostly we supply with open-ended yarn. So that is a couple of big challenges. Also canceling of orders for raw material for the fabric when you're ordering. We had a vendor, we ordered 1st of November. On 31st of January, is making an excuse. Sorry, we cannot ship because the terms and conditions are not suiting us. Letting us know, scrambling to do the replacement, find the goods beside the costing, because you don't think about the price at that moment. You think of saving your customer and supplying your customer, saving your face, so your credibility is maintained. So these are the bigger challenges which we have been facing in supply chain, not only during COVID. In pre-COVID times, I had a challenge where they did not ship some artist prime canvas to the customer in Montreal. He had to supply for back to school. So somehow we managed it. We shipped the fabric from US. He had some wood, and somehow we handled that. But whatever challenges we face, I think the mindset is how we can solve the problem. And that's what I tell my business student, that our job as business student or business people or professional is solving the problems.
Yeah, that be confident, be a problem solver. Things aren't going to go, no matter if the person in that role does everything perfectly, they can't control all situations, to your point. They can't control who the vendor is. I mean, as far as when the vendor is going to ship, if they're going to be on time, as they said, and being able to think about how to solve that problem, being transparent, it sounds like, and certainly having a strong attention to detail are all things that go into that particular profession. So on the opposite side of that, I'm sure there are more good days than not so good days. What are some of the things that you love about that profession of supply chain?
I think supply chain, the good thing is when you work with that, you work with the customer at one end and your vendors at one end and create some new products, new technology, new things. That's very, very exciting. And also when the regular day-to-day activities, something simple as the order came, shipping it out in 24 to 48 hours, smooth flow, as we say, no news means good news. That means the customer is not complaining. The simple operational flow is a very happy day. When you're getting the sales, I say 50% depends on getting the order and 50% lies on the logistics and the delivery. So when those things flow smoothly at an operational level, that is a good thing. Developing new products along with the vendor and customer, that's a good thing. These days we are working more sustainable product. That's a good thing. Mostly in my life, I have worked on cotton, which the word sustainability is huge these days, but I've always worked in the cotton. So those are some of the happier things.
Gotcha. Well, there are, good and bad in both for sure, but it sounds like it's an exciting profession to be in and be able to have impact on, which is great. Are there any particular?
I will add one more thing, as you said,
okay.
Is in supply chain, especially in my field, it's very international. So when we go to a trade show in IFAI or a show in Frankfurt for the paper world or the technical textile shows, meeting your friends across the world, the culture you learn, the things which you talk, those days lifelong in your memory. I still remember the show which I attended in 2001 in Orlando in IFAI, and my first paper world show in Frankfurt in 2001 too. I still remember those, or the trade show in Hong Kong, or the trade show, NAMTA shows in other places. Those days in your memory forever. And I think that's a great place where you really feel satisfied to be part of, the textile world, which, I have worked all my life in this world of textile.
I would so echo that a million times. I think, that's how you and I met, is through the textile world. I think, you're right. All the different elements that go into making a fabric can be sourced and found all around the globe. And I think that is probably the top thing that I would say just about being in the industry, are the relationships that you make and keep over time, no matter what part of the industry that you work in. And such a great comment to share. Thank you on that. Anything else that you would suggest for students considering the field in terms of maybe resources that they could explore or check into? Anything that you might offer along those, like that might be in addition to their school or other schools to look at, just anything you might offer?
I think the first step will be, through the internships. Supply chain is so big and it plays a huge role in textile world like any other industries. And textile has been one of the pioneering industry domestically for centuries here. With so much, as I say, the days of outsourcing is over and COVID has basically hastened the era of insourcing. So I've been saying to people, the golden age of textile is in front of us. So from clothing to textiles to manufacturing, boat covers to anything we think about it, there is so much scope these days in the textile world. And coming 10, 15 years, I see are the golden times, so the best times are ahead of us. So this is a good time for people, the young people, to enter into this trade. As Paige, you will know, in our industry, there are a lot of family-owned, small to medium-sized business, which has turned over to generations. Like, for example, our present chairwoman, Amy Berkshire, for example. I remember when I was an intern back in the days, we used to work with her dad. I didn't work myself. I observed my seniors doing that. But it's a stable career. It's not like ups and downs like the Silicon Valley or the finance sector will have. You make a decent living. You solve a lot of people's needs and requirements, and also you get a chance to explore. The textile world is so laterally diverse. It can that you get a chance to experience many different kind of people, many different industries around the world. For example, compared to a software engineer, you don't have to spend all your life coding and decoding. Here you get so many chance, and there are big companies to small companies. Here in Minnesota, when we visit 3M sometime, they have their textile sourcing, chemical sourcing to small companies. And once you work for a while in the textile world, you have the opportunity to try your route in entrepreneurship. So textile world is very international. You get a lot of chance to travel. It's very stable profession. You don't see ups and downs. And the most important these days, it has a tremendous future moving forward.
Well, that's exciting. I think that's where the kids get a lot of that hands-on experience in the internship process. Do the students you work with, do they typically get an internship while they're in school with you, or is it after they graduate they're seeking an internship until they can get more experience, or how do you see that path going?
In our company in Global Impacts, it's basically 80-20. I will say 80% of the students are in school because the academia is also wants them to have experiential learning, hands-on experience. So these days, internship happens all across the year. We have spring, have fall, and summer, and then many of those intern stay once they graduate if they like. And we have a couple of them in our company who have stayed after they have graduated from school. So when they're in school, they get their feet wet, I will say. They feel how it is, and you build an internship program, which we have done. Is you start off as a freshman intern, you become a senior intern in the next semester, and finally a team leader, and a pathway to get a full-time employment. So if there is a pathway, and if they start while they're in school, we have interns who have even started at a sophomore level. They have done an incredible job. They've grown incredibly. So I will say they should start internship while they're in school as a part-time. You cannot do 40 hours when you're in school. You can do 15 hours, 12 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever suits your schedule, 3-4 hours a day. And because of remote working these days, you save the commute time, you save going to an office, and we are now used to working remotely. In our companies, we have been having remote internship even pre-COVID, and that has worked beautifully.
Well, it sounds like, if the students that are listening are in the universities already, they can go through their universities, seek out opportunities. Also, I think through IFAI website, going on and just looking, I don't know that there are actual internships listed there, but they can go there to find companies that might need supply chain internships or looking for that at their organization. So I appreciate you sharing all that you have shared today. I think we've covered a lot, but is there anything else that you feel like is that you would like to speak to that we didn't go over in the questions today, King?
I think a couple of places where students can look for internship, and where industries from our industry, the companies from our industry, can help to bridge the gap. We should list all the internship in IFAI as a separate internship opportunities. Each of the individual companies can do that. You can put your ad in LinkedIn as internship ad. You can use platform like Handshake, which more and more schools are using it. So there is a lot of bridge between the corporations and the students, because many times I've heard from corporations, since I oversee the internship in our school too, in our business department, is how to find students. And to do that, beside these platforms, sometimes they will come to the classroom, sometimes they will be on those career fairs, sometimes they will be in touch with the professors they know. That's how, students are very busy and very caught up these days. Some of them are graduating in 3 years, some of them are graduating in 2.5 years. They have extracurricular activities. So from the industry side, we need to have a outreach effort to these schools, to this university, working with the professors, and also, basically be have a strong digital presence, because today's millennials are always, are well connected. And I've seen, besides supply chain, they like digital marketing a lot. They like sales. Some of them do, some of them don't. Because in sales, it's still done in our industry in the old fashioned way. We go, we meet, we call, we do trade shows. But many times the students are very savvy in digital space. So that is something which we as an industry can learn from the students, how to be more digitally connected to our customers, our industry, how to get a news out there. So those are the outreach we can do from our industry to tell the great story of this golden era of textile, which is coming in front of us, to the students, to the school, to the universities. So that will be my 2 cents in this.
I love it. I love it. Well, you were the perfect guest to have on the podcast today, because you work with students on a regular basis, but also have the industry knowledge, background, and experience. So I think you've provided some really nutritious information for these students, not only about what the field is like, kind of a snapshot of that, but also how they can get into it and starting out with internships. So I appreciate your time today. I look forward to seeing you at our next board meeting. Thank you, King.
Definitely. Wonderful. For this chat, if anybody wants to reach out, we all are available, and, we are available from LinkedIn to other means of networking we can. And one last thing I would like to add, there are a lot of international students. Many of them are supply chain master students from great schools like UT Dallas to others. They are part of it. They are looking for internship. Sometimes companies don't know how to navigate the space with international students, but that process is very simple. You get your company verified to E-Verify, and then what they need to do is a simple CPT, which is called as curriculum practical training while they're in school. The job description should match their major of study. It's a very easy process, can be done in 2 weeks. After they graduate, many of the supply chain students are STEM field. They can work 3 years under OPT, which is optional practical training. So we can utilize a lot of the international students, and many of them with science background, numbers background, technical background, engineering background, to bring them within the fold of our industry. So that will be another area where we can do some collaboration between the schools, the universities, the international students, as well as our industry. So that will be my departing thoughts. There are a lot of opportunities out there.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of IFAI Talking Textiles, brought to you by the Advanced Textiles Products Division of IFAI. IFAI is a not-for-profit association representing the international specialty fabrics marketplace. Learn more about events, workshops, and webinars IFAI hosts throughout the year at ifai.com/events.